The union between Twitter and Elon Musk is back on, and the media are melting down over his plans to offer free speech to users of every political persuasion. Twitter has accepted Elon Musk's proposal to buy the company for the original price of about $44 billion. And now that the billionaire is one step closer to buying the social media giant, some members of the media are losing their minds, expectedly as always, with NBC reporter Ben Collins, for example, saying the move could, quote, actually affect the midterms. And another reporter responding, retweeting, be afraid, be very afraid. Ambassador, one of my personal favorites was Don Winslow, who said, if Musk gets control of Twitter and Zuckerberg has control of Facebook and CNN is under new Republican-backed management, we have a massive problem. And he says, do not listen to anyone who tells you differently. This is a massive freak out over the promise of free speech.
I love it. You know, I love it because I'll tell you, what they're afraid of is that this actually become transparent. And right when the word came out that Musk was going to do this initially, my numbers grew by tens of thousands. Like, I think it was 50,000 in like a week. And it's because they suddenly removed the algorithms, right? We all know what it's like. You see that how slow it works. And then suddenly if Musk comes over, my hope is that one, he makes it transparent, they show the algorithms, and they really start to focus on getting rid of the bots. Because we don't need China, Russia, and Iran sitting there dictating the debate that's happening on Twitter. We need to actually have real people that can say whatever they want because we are a country of free speech.
That's right. And to the ambassador's point, that's why, in part, the $44 billion offer was considered 38% higher than the market value because so much of it was bots and proverbial crap. So, Brian, what say you, though? Because I know you lost a lot of followers as well.
Right.
Why is free speech so dangerous to the left?
I thought I did a bad interview, maybe on the radio, and I thought that's why I lost them. But evidently, I've been told that I was being followed by bots, which I don't mind because I like feeling more important when I had those thousands of extra bots. Initially, I didn't get 50,000, but I got another 20, 30. But I think it was as simple as this, Ambassador. I think it was because a lot of Republicans or conservatives or moderates or independents that weren't way to the left decided I can go back on Twitter. And maybe I can actually learn something, pick up something, or follow the news. The other thing to keep in mind is I have not figured out why he, at the last minute, went back to the original deal. What was the 6 months about? What was the 6 months of sparring about? And instead, maybe he knew he was going to lose the court case, and he thought, I'll just get ahead of it. So I think both times, when he said, I'm going to go on the board, I was surprised. When he said he was going to buy, I was going to be surprised. When they worked out a deal, I was going to be surprised. When he dropped it, I was surprised. And I was surprised when he is actually buying it now. I think it's great news for the country.
I love that you're always surprised.
Yeah,
right.
Like
I wake up every day amazed.
Lots of entertainment happening.
Yeah.
And to answer your question, I think, reports are, in fact, that, yes, he was apparently dreading the deposition process. He was dreading more transparency on his end. These are, of course, coming out of the left, so who knows to trust them. But keep in mind that him offering to now buy at that, again, original price, increase shares by another 22% in one day. So maybe this is all part of his larger plan to ensure that what he's buying is really worth it. And Kaylee, back to the media freak out for a second. One of my other favorites was your favorite Media Matters weighing in, Angela Curusone, the president, saying that Musk will turn Twitter into a fever swamp of dangerous conspiracy theories, partisan chicanery, and operationalized harassment. Again, why is free speech? Why is the open town square market so dangerous to the left?
Because they can't allow people to think for themselves. They allow people to think for themselves. They get the Hunter Biden story. That can't happen. You have to ban one of the largest newspapers in the United States from the platform to censor that news, as Twitter did with the New York Post. My favorite, though, and it's so ironic that they say this, Democratic congressman says that this will have major implications for our democracy, society, and culture. Okay, our democracy. NBC reporter, if it gets done early enough, it could actually affect midterms. And then Politico magazine editor, be very afraid. So now they're worried about it affecting elections when there is no doubt in my mind that Twitter affected an election with the censoring of the Hunter Biden news. John McLaughlin saying 4.6% of voters would have changed their vote from Biden had they known about that news. Let people decide for themselves. They're smart. They can pick the right candidate, but don't hide information from them.
That's right. And that's why GOP lawmakers are calling for more investigation and transparency into that exact censoring and suppression, because they argue, yes, it did have an effect, or at least we need to know if it did, in fact. And Doctor, so of course, everyone's also freaking out about the possibility of restoring former President Trump back to Twitter, which Elon Musk has said he will do, with some, again, with their freak out saying he could awaken DC journos, fire off an endorsement of an embattled candidate, or supercharge the latest conservative meme. Oh, the horrors.
Oh, the horror. But that's the thing, right? It's all about free speech. And if Donald Trump does go back on Twitter, I mean, it will make some news headlines. But I actually think it probably wouldn't happen before headlines. Kaylee and I were talking about, or before midterms, we were talking about this before. If he comes back to Twitter, it's probably to talk about the next presidential election.
Or to talk about Truth Social, which he prefer everyone get on and not Twitter.
I'm just looking forward to the edit button coming.
That's right.
Elon Musk promised it, and I'm going to hold him accountable to that.
Right.
Edit button.
And that was Elon's point to begin with. He said, what idiots at Twitter to drive the president to just create his own platform, like a true liberal, just losing money right and left. Hey everyone, I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kaylee McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.